Hello my friends and welcome to the Electrek Viking. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate your support, and thank you if you've jumped onto Patreon to help out. Just anything helps with supporting the channel. The lowest tier on Patreon is just $3 a month, and that would mean a huge amount to me in terms of helping me to continue to make videos and to make them as even better than what they are now. And that's my goal. I just want to keep on improving the channel and keep on bringing you the content you're after. Now, Tesla versus Ford. Well, one of the pros and cons of Ford is they have dealers. One of the pros and cons of Tesla is they don't have dealers. Now, one of the things I like about Tesla, and I think a lot of people like, is their fixed pricing. The concept of going to a dealer and having to haggle for a price and not knowing whether or not the person who came in yesterday got a better price than you because they might have haggled better, to me is a little bit unsettling. I prefer to know that the price is the price and that is what I pay. And I prefer to also to know that I'm not paying for a dealer's fancy lot to have big stands and to have a big stylish looking building when I don't think that's really necessary. It just adds additional overheads. Now, the other issue with Ford versus Tesla is that, well, Ford dealers don't particularly like selling EVs, and apparently they're marking the price up on them as a result. And apparently I've heard that in the United States, this is common practice. Now, if you're from the United States, let me know in the comments section below if you've seen this before. But I've heard that with a lot of cars, like the Dodge Demon, special editions of different vehicles, that dealers will put on a huge markup on top of the actual recommended retail price, and then apparently people just accept this. I think this is a practice that shouldn't be accepted. Now, John Crider, a Louisiana native who likes crawfish, gems, minerals, EVs, and advocates for sustainability, and is also the host of Getting Stoned Online, jewelry artisan, and a Tesla shareholder, writes for Clean Technica that dealers are preventing Ford from competing with Tesla. She says that she recently read an article which echoes what she's been saying for quite some time now. If Ford, or any other legacy automaker for that matter, really wants to compete with Tesla, the dealers need to get the hell out of the way. I've written about this extensively. I added in the word hell, by the way. For example, in Connecticut, a local paper, The Day, published an opinion piece basically begging Tesla to play by their rules. By there, I mean dealerships. Don't lobby to make direct sales to customers legal. Don't force dealerships to compete for their business without lifting a single finger. She says that in her interview and podcast with Connecticut State Senator Will Haskell, he said something that kind of led me to the realization of exactly why dealerships don't want to compete with Tesla. Dealerships have been the only way you could purchase a new car for decades. Tesla is forcing them to change, but instead they are fighting that. I've also touched upon the dealer experience, but not my own, those of others. And this is the focus of the Electrek article, which stated, it's one thing to have a product that competes with Tesla. It's another to have the sales experience. And Ford's old dealership model isn't helping. Now, Electrek normally criticizes Tesla, but it appears as though here they agree with the Tesla model. The article actually explained that Ford is serious about EVs, which I don't think they are, and adding more to its lineup, but that its approach to actually selling them is leaving customers frustrated and looking elsewhere for their electric vehicles. The author pointed out that the first issue is that Ford has moved to what it calls e-invoice pricing, which means that the invoice price or dealer cost and the MSRP are identical. The author explained further, usually dealer invoice pricing is lower, allowing dealers to offer deals below the MSRP, which just isn't as clean or simple to a consumer who may rather want to just pay what the car costs instead of worrying about getting the best deal, which is what I mentioned before. Whether Ford will admit it or not, with the e-invoice pricing, it seems to be taking a page from Tesla's playbook where everyone pays the same price for a car. If you buy Tesla, the price online is what you pay. No games, no dealer nonsense. Except, despite Ford's e-invoice pricing, dealers can and do play games, and they mark up cars well over MSRP. Now, the author even has his own dealer story, having assisted with several Mach-E deals for numerous customers in different states, he's seen upwards of $10,000 over the sticker price. The author shared a screenshot of a tweet from Ford's Mike Levine, quote, tweeting Ross Gerber, a friend of mine who was complaining about poor dealer practices. Dealers selling Mach-E's well above MSRP. The author reached out to Mr. Levine but never got a response. However, Emma Berg, the director of Ford's communications for EVs, said this. If a customer isn't happy with their dealer, our team can help them find a different dealer that is a better match. Okay, so you've got to drive, 2 hours to find a dealer that's a better match? Anyway, dealers are independent franchises, and ultimately the final price a customer will pay for any vehicle is agreed between themselves and a dealer. So Ford, the parent company, seems to agree with this kind of markup pricing. Yeah, strange. Now, in other words, dealers are presenting a problem that Tesla always assumed they'd present if Tesla had to sell cars through them instead of directly to customers. Also, of course, it adds price to the car because logically the dealers have to make money. Now, another issue that I see with the dealer model is that I've heard from numerous customers in the United States that when they walk into a Ford dealership, they are intentionally pushed away from EVs, and many dealerships intentionally badmouth EVs because they believe they're not going to make the same amount of money on servicing costs. Let me know if that's happened to you in the comment section below. I'd be fascinated to know. Now, another issue the author touched upon is a leasing issue. Lessees are unable to take advantage of federal tax credits to cut down on costs because Ford Financial Services arm will not pass the credit on to them. This seems dodgy to me. He cited an article from Cars Direct which further explained when you lease a new EV, the tax credit still applies, but since it stays with the original owner, most OEMs don't pass on the credit when you lease. Instead, they keep the credit, like Ford is doing with the latest Mustang Mach-E, which qualifies for a full $7,500 tax credit. This may affect the lease price on certain EVs, since some manufacturers do choose to pass on the savings, like Volkswagen, which offers a $7,500 zero emissions bonus for leases of its 2021 ID4. Well, interestingly, the ID4 seems to be picking up in terms of its sales in the United States over the last 2 months. It's probably not a coincidence. Now, Jonas says, I think that the author has a very valid point here when addressing the fact that dealerships are getting in the way of Ford's success selling electric vehicles and Ford's success in general. Their sales have been massively down in the last 3 months in the United States. And sorry, but you can't just blame this on parts. You can't just say that this is just purely parts, because Chinese EV makers, many of them, have almost doubled their sales during the same period of time. Now, it's easier to buy a Tesla than a Mach-E or other legacy automaker EV, even in states that ban direct sales. You can simply go online, buy it, and then be done with it. The next step is the delivery process. There are no hidden fees, no price haggling, no one telling you that you need to pay $1,000 for locking lug nuts, and even worse. Now, I'll put a link to an article titled Ford Mustang Mach-E Buyer Shares Horrible Dealership Experiences, Extreme Price Markups, Random $1,000 Dealership Fees, and Enraged Salespeople. There are numerous people having bad experiences with Ford dealerships when trying to buy the Mach-E. Now, when you buy your Tesla, there are no paperwork fees, no ill-informed salespeople who know nothing about the car nor have any interest because they don't make any money from it. There's none of that. The author of the Electrek article penned a very well-written constructive feedback piece for Ford, and I think that if Ford is serious about EVs, it will not only accept the criticism, but actively try to find a solution that will benefit its customers who want to buy a Mach-E. With that said, Ford needs to understand why dealerships don't want to sell their Mach-E's or compete with Tesla. I've summarized this before in another article. The reason why dealerships don't want to compete with Tesla or any EV manufacturer that sells directly to the customer is that they don't want to have to fight for something they're used to getting easily. Up until Tesla, the only way to buy a car was through a dealership. With Tesla and other EV manufacturers such as Rivian and Lucid coming to the States, dealerships are now having to fight or compete for something they are not used to having to fight for. They have to fight for their piece of the pie, so to speak. Before Tesla, dealerships could get away with screwing customers over, because if you wanted a new car, you go to the dealers. It's always been that way. Ford, you're working with a model that is used to getting what it wants and being the only access point for customers. This model doesn't want to change or accept the fact that things are changing. They are. Many car makers are starting to sell online. Even Volvo, Polestar, they're both doing it. There are numerous different companies. Even in Australia, we've got Subaru doing it. Even Toyota is starting to do it. Mercedes is doing it. Yeah, the list goes on. Now, this model doesn't want to change or accept the fact that things are changing. This is what you're working with, and it's working against you. I'm sure you know it, but if you want to succeed, I will add to the growing number of voices asking you to find a way for that model to work in your favor or to eliminate the model itself. Now, what do you think? Do you think Ford should eliminate dealerships? I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I do think Ford should have the option of being able to buy online. Ideally then, Ford could just give a percentage of the sale to the local dealer. Now I've got a suggestion. What about EV only dealerships? If today's dealers don't want to sell EVs or help them with EVs, then Ford could just open shops to cater with that. Then you could let the buyer potentially order from that particular EV dealership store. They could pick it up from there. They could have an experience with that store. And then eventually, the old dealerships, the dinosaur dealerships that don't want to change, don't want to adapt to the new world, will eventually die off. Or Ford could just sell direct like Tesla does. One or the other, I don't think they have any choice. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Should Ford copy the Tesla model? Or what else could they do to potentially compete with Tesla and stop hijacking their own sales? Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.